Today, I'd like to introduce you to Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus, International Navigator, will give us some tips for sailing the ocean blue, like he did in 1492. Columbus pioneered the waterways of the Atlantic Ocean under the sponsorship of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain. Sea-wise and worthy as a sailor from an early age, a teenager when he began exploring the coast of Africa, today we'll learn how Columbus and his career as a navigator can help us navigate as we move through the high seas of our own life. So won't you help me in welcoming the discussion of the navigation of Christopher Columbus? Do you think I was going to have him appear from the ethers for real? I could see some of you were kind of looking at the doorways and things to wonder if I had a special guest. Well, I do. Monday, many of us had the opportunity to be off school or off work in celebration of Columbus Day. Now I ask you, on the 4th of July, we know what to do. Thanksgiving, we know what to do. Christmas and all those holidays that follow around that time know what to do. Now, how exactly, other than going, I don't have to go to work today, do we celebrate Columbus Day? How many of you celebrated in a special Columbus Day way that I mean, maybe you made a bath and floated boats, I don't know, but the idea for Columbus Day is to move into the idea of a journey, of a discovery, of areas that are uncharted in your life that you would like to move to. So I would say now, as we celebrate the ideas of Columbus, that there were 3 he gave us. First of all, just a little background. Columbus did not discover us. We were here already. He merely bumped into us, and we weren't what he was looking for at all. We were not China. He wanted to find the Western Asian route, and if he had just looked next door instead of going west, it was right in his backyard. But he didn't know. So much was not known. Can you imagine the adventure he must have had in recruiting his men for the trip? Once Isabella and King Ferdinand fronted him the money. How many times have you wanted to go on an adventure, but you couldn't find anyone to fund it? Ever been there and say, boy, I'd sure like to take this trip. Now, who'd like to pay my way? Well, of course, Columbus was from Genoa, Italy. So, of course, he first knocked on the door of the Italians, and they said, no way, all of our navigation money has been spent. You know how that is when you look in your budget. Secondly, then he thought, well, won't be the Italians, maybe the Portuguese. Not so much. Finally, he knocked on the door of Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain. They liked his idea. They put him on retainer because at that present moment they were in a skirmish with the Muslim people. And so they said, oh, just one adventure at a time, Chris, we'll get back to you. And so they did in 1492. But that wasn't his first adventure, nor would it be his last. He sailed right up to the last few years of his life. He was an explorer. He really didn't care so much that he found the pathway to Asia so that the Spanish could get gold and all those treasures. He wanted the adventure. It didn't matter so much even who he sailed for. I mean, he was thankful, of course, and there was a Spanish flag on the Santa and the Nina and the Pinta, but it really didn't matter. And in our voyage in life, we can't be so choosy as to who's going to finance that. We just have to go ahead and say, I'm going. Somehow the money's going to show up. I'm planning. I'm making my map. And by gosh, I'm going to get there. Now, there are 3 key ingredients that we have in common with Columbus when we're ready to take our ocean voyage. or any time we step out to do a new thing. The first is all navigators navigate by the North Star. Now there is an external North Star, but the most important North Star that we have is right inside, and it's called the God in us. So although we look to the outside for direction, the direction that we need to take a hold of and listen to and follow is that inside direction. So Columbus gave us the idea of following the North Star. The second thing was, when you're going on a voyage, it's really important what and who you take with you. Now, we know during his time that there were some people who thought if you went too far, you'd fall off. And, you know, if the waves got really big, maybe there was a monster underneath there somewhere. So you can imagine what his talk might have been when he went door to door, recruiting people for his voyage. Hello? Yes? I know you have a reputation as a sailor. Now, have I got a job for you? Listen, we're going to take these 3 ships, and we're going to sail out. We're not exactly quite sure where we're going. And so far, the provisions are kind of marginal. We have a little salted beef and some water. And no, you won't see your family for a while. And pay, well, I'm not quite sure. We haven't figured that out yet or signed a contract. Now, don't you want to go with me? So, you want to be real sure when you're setting out for your adventure that you have the people that want to go along with you. How many of you have ever wanted to go someplace and you have to drag somebody with you? You don't want those kind of companions on your journey. You want cheerleaders on your journey. Because when you sail out, you might get some rough seas. And you don't want somebody down in the hull of the ship going, I don't want to go out there, it's raining or it's... No, you want somebody who'll stand on that deck with you and say, it's going to be okay. I can see the shoreline. Yeah. So when you're packing up for an adventure, choose wisely who you sail with, who's on your ship. It's important. And then you want to pack up for that journey. You want to make sure you have everything that's needed before you set your sail. See, some of us go out, set our sail, the wind blows us, before we've had a chance to check in with our North Star or get everything ready for our trip. Is this making sense to you? And we get up in the morning, we're all excited, we set that sail, whoosh, and we're blown all over Yucaipa. And we finally get into port at night and we think, wow, another day. And we haven't accomplished anything or gone in a particular port or even had fun sailing the 7 seas. No, setting your sail and having God blow that gust of wind to your destination is the last thing that you do. It's a 3-prong idea. Whether you're Christopher Columbus or John Smith, it's the same idea. You travel by your North Star. You make sure that you have every provision you need. Now, if you're going on a long trip, what will you take with you? What is important for you? Will you take a journal? Will you take your daily word? Will you take some really good food? What will you take? And then, do you have a map? Imagine going across the Atlantic without a GPS of any kind, just following that North Star, just following that North Star. That's the most important piece of navigation, is to get centered and get directed, and then stock up, then unfurl the sail. And every bit as important when you finish the day's work or that part of the journey is to tidy all that up, to batten down the hatches, put everything away, to unfurl the sail, because you don't want the wind to come up at night when that sail is and blow you off course in the darkness to someplace you don't want to go. How many of you blown off course in the darkness to someplace you didn't want to go? Well, you forgot to put your sail away. But now you know. So it won't be like that tonight, right? Tonight, when you close down the day, you'll really close down the day. And you'll finish being a sailor, and you'll drop off into a sweet sleep. And you'll wake up a sailor again tomorrow, where you get to go to the North Star, make sure that everybody's been fed, put the sail up, and whoosh, God has you again. Does this make sense? It's important. When I was in a ministry in Florida, I had an opportunity for a week silent retreat. Now, there were a lot of people who were taking bets on whether I could be quiet for a whole week. They lost because I was. And so at the end of the day, we went to Mass 6 times a day. At the end of the day, we would put the day away. There's a name for it, and I've forgotten it right now. But anyway, and that would be the last Mass. And they would take the little offering, and they would take the cloth, and they would bundle everything up, and then they would walk out of this beautiful Gothic-like cathedral. It was gorgeous. And you just had a feeling of, you know, that it was finished for the day. And so we all went to our little rooms, and you just had that feeling of closure. And they didn't stay up watching the late night news or CNN or one more video or whatever. It was done. They were finished. They rested. So they were ready for the next time, the next opportunity, the next day. It's important. What Columbus did do on his adventure, that we all do on ours, is he opened trade routes. You think, well, I'm not opening a trade route. But every time you have an exchange of ideas, that's a kind of trade. You may not be giving coffee for corn, but you're still in the trade. You're still in conversation. He also brought the horse and animals to Northern America so that the Native Americans didn't have to be nomads anymore. They now could be hunters and gatherers because they had transportation. And probably the final most important thing in Christopher's life and in ours is that he charted the course that other navigators looked at, and the conversation went something like this. Wow, Columbus sailed here. Now that wasn't the route, so we won't go there. We'll maybe go over here. All those explorers that came after, your mistake or your ability not to get somewhere may very well be the red flag that says, no, I'm probably not going to go that way. They were a good sailor, but they forgot this, or they got this wind instead. Never doubt that people learn as much by your victories as they do by your mistakes. And there really aren't any of those. It's all a gift for your guidance or somebody else's. And God is there in every present moment. You are an adventurer. There's an adventure calling you in your life right now. You may not have given it attention. But there's something in you to do. Some sailing that you need to do with an idea. So you bring it into the perfect port. A book that gets published. A song that gets written. A child that gets reared, a book that gets shared, a violin that gets retuned and played again, a sewing machine that gets dusted off. There's some adventure in you right now, knocking on your door. So the 3 things you want to remember to bring it to fruition is to go to your North Star and ask, what is it, God, that you want to be happening in me? I'm listening. Before I set my sail and get blown off anywhere, I'm going to listen. I'm going to go for direction. I'm going to take notes in my meditation time. I'm going to begin my day and end my day with some kind of devotion and remembrance and belief in you. I'm going to make sure that I have food for my journey and right companionship that will cheer me on no matter what stormy seas come up. And friends, if you have a journey or a destination, you're going to have some stormy seas. It's part of the adventure. Arrgh. You know, it's that kind of thing. It's like, this is part of the adventure. This is what sailing is about. This is what life is about. You step in with everything you've got, and you let God provide the rest. But you step in. You're there. You're available. You say, I'm it. I'm a navigator. I'm a sailor. So someone's going to help me navigate and sail, because that's who I am. A navigator, a sailor. And the third thing you're going to do is not set sail till you're ready. Till you're ready. And nobody has that time for you. I know we go through periods of life and people say, well, at this stage you ought to be doing this, and at this stage you ought to be doing this. And we deny our individuality when we don't show up at those times. I mean, I'm a woman of an interesting age, and I should be doing certain things that I'm not doing, quite frankly. No. And some of you are at certain ages when you're supposed to be able to do this, and this, and this. And this age looks like this, and this, and this. Not. Who says so? You say so. Christopher Columbus sailed long after everybody said he shouldn't. You're old in that time. He was in his 40s, which was old for that time in 1492. Would be like 80 or so now. Chris, you're going to go out on a ship again? Yes, I am. I got a little money from Ferdinand and Isabella. I'm off for my next adventure, because my life is not done. It's adventure after adventure after adventure. The most important part is that you show up. When you've made direction with your North Star, when you have everything you need, then you unfurl that sail and you set out on a blue sea of promise and wonder and discovery. You are Christopher Columbus, right here in this room. Adventurers, navigators of your life. And you start by checking in with your North Star. Remember it. God bless you. Adventurers. Amen. I'd like to call our ushers forward.